Introverted guys, how did you meet your girlfriend? Met her at the gym. We met. She suddenly started showing up right around the same time to do cardio with me because it makes the time go by faster. After several weeks of this, she finally said, "Are you gonna ask me out or what?" And we've been married for going on 30 years. I'd be single to this day had she not made that comment. Story 2. Through my realtor. I was basically single for the first 32 years of my life. Decided I wanted to buy a house and met my realtor at a random open house. It took me 2 years looking off and on. Before I put in an offer, by the end of it, my realtor said she just helped a single girl buy a house and wanted to set us up on a blind date. For years later, we've now been married for 1.5 years and our realtor was our officiant. Life is weird. Realtor just wanted a commission on selling both of your houses to get you into something bigger. Story 3. My fiancé is super introverted, but his parents are extroverts, and I work with them both. The first thing out of his mom's mouth was, "You should meet my son. He's cute." He came to our site for lunch with them every Wednesday, and they invited me weekly for months, and he would just sit there while the three of us talked. Then finally one day I was telling his dad I was going to trivia with my friends, and he said his son would love to go. And I remember saying, "Oh, really?" He would. But he came. So that was over 5 years ago, and now we're getting hitched. Parents did him a solid there. Story 4. We were at a party around November. My group full of extroverts that adopted me made me go after a long time of non-stopping telling me to go with them. I accept. Now I'm not fond of going into parties or events like that, but what's I was supposed to do if they didn't stop annoying me to go? Okay, let's continue. And after 10 to 15 minutes of shyfully following them around the place, I sit in a nearby tree, and then I see her. One of the group saw the opportunity and made us present. It turns out she is also an introvert and has the same history as why is she their same friends and all. And after some minutes we lock eyes, and we both made click at first sight. After that we both split from the group and went on our own adventure around. We literally spend the whole time together without leaving each other's side, not even for one moment. I never meet a person this perfect. I love her so much. She got me out of a dark time. Story 5. We met playing Modern Warfare 2 in 2010. We were on the trailer park map, and I noticed how good of a player she was. Next map was Skid Row, and I sent her a message randomly to shoot my shot. She answered back, and we started playing more matches together. She was cracked at Halo 3. The next year, in 2011, we decided to meet finally, and I did the first brave thing in my life and flew out to her. She could have been a serial killer trying to harvest my sweet, sweet duodenum or something, mind you. This was before Tinder and online relationships were still seen as sketchy. Luckily, she was gorgeous, and we hit it off really quick. We spent the week together being a goofy 21-year-old couple who didn't know WTF they were doing. Her family were huge assholes who were abusive towards her, and on my last night there, they got really bad towards her. So at the last moment, we decided to bring her back home with me. When we arrived in Buffalo, my dad met up with us in his old car and got us a big pizza from my old job. We've been inseparable ever since and are married and have kids now. She's still cracked at Halo 3 and will f you up. Life's good. Story 6. I'm a crafty guy. I'd regularly post my 3D prints and projects on Instagram. She reached out to hire me to make her some custom tools she wanted for her job, massage therapist. We knew of each other from high school, though it had been about 10 years since. I determined the best way to make these custom tools would require molds of her thumbs to sculpt the tools around. She came over, and we hit it off. It was September 2020. I put on weight during lockdown. We were wearing masks. I was having difficulties with the silicone that I hadn't used before, and I was nervous, sweating like a lobster. We hung out a few more times while I was making them. Our third hangout, she brought her massage table over to work on a nasty knot in my back. We were both clearly smitten with each other, but I didn't want to ask her out while I was working for her. In fact, I never actually asked her out. After I gave her the tools, which were beautifully crafted, there was a moment where I felt she had set me up perfectly for a kiss, so I responded in kind, and there were fireworks. We decided that would mark the start of us dating. One of the best nights of my life. I had been in a deep depression for several years beforehand, but she pulled me out of that deep pit, and I've never been more happy as I am right now. I wouldn't trade our relationship for anything. Story 7. I was in Home Depot one afternoon picking up an order, drywall, to continue building my house. Well, they said it was going to take them a bit to get the forklift to it from the back and to put it on my trailer. So I went wandering around. When I was at the back wall checking out the clearance stuff, I hear a commotion and a clacking sound. I turn towards the sound, and there is this red husky running at full speed. So I crouched down, and as it went to run past, I scooped it off the ground. It just went limp and looked at me. My husky, Dutch, would do the same thing if you picked him up. So here I am, holding this dog, who is now licking my face. I am laughing hysterically. This lovely woman comes out of an aisle and is looking at me strangely while I am effectively soaked with slobber. That's fine. We had a small conversation about how I had a husky. Her dog's name was Alice. She thanked me for catching her dog, and she grabbed the leash, and they left to wherever. No idea what her name was. Fast forward about 10 minutes and I see Alice wandering around, on her own. I called her name, and she waits for me to get closer and takes off down an aisle. When I turned the corner to the aisle, I saw the lady had passed out in an aisle. I called 911. She was breathing, had a pulse, but definitely unconscious but no visible injuries. EMTs arrived in like a minute since they were literally next door and took her to the ER. I gave the EMTs my phone number, name and address and wrote, Home Depot guy, next to it. Told them to have her, or whoever her next of kin was, come get Alice whenever, but that she was safe. She came by the next morning to get Alice, and I of course invited her into what was an active construction site that I lived in. She was a little weirded out by the strange interior of my house until I explained about how I wasn't done building it. She explained that her passing out was a side effect of the medication she was on at the time. I walked her through the house. She laughed that my bedroom was the garage, and my kitchen was a fish cleaning table hooked up to a hose on the back porch, and I cooked everything on my grill. But when I explained my vision, she gave design critiques. Turns out she was an interior designer. Anyhow, she basically demanded that she take me out for dinner to repay calling 911 and making sure Alice was taken care of. I call her before I put in design elements to the house, flooring, cabinets, sinks, countertops, etc. So she came by the house a lot after that. So did Alice. Dutch and I were pretty happy with that arrangement. The rest, they say, is history. That was almost 15 years ago. Story 8. I met my now wife, then girlfriend, playing World of Warcraft back when I was in college. I spent a lot of time on my computer during college, and we happened to meet on the same server playing together with another group of friends. After a short amount of time, I used to playfully flirt with her through the game. I'd buy her a bouquet of flowers in the game, and I'd send her in-game mail and write letters about silly little things. Eventually, we progressed to personal messaging through text, Skype, etc., and we'd always share songs to each other since we loved the same style of music. We got pretty serious, and she flew to my state to visit me during one of the summers after we first met in the game, and when we seen each other the first time, it was like we already knew each other, and we knew that our love was real. She'd visit me every summer since then until I graduated. Several months after graduation, I flew down to where she lived and moved her out and drove us down to live in my state. And we've been married for years now. Funniest part is I wasn't looking for a girlfriend or anything. It just magically happened, so I'm very thankful for World of Warcraft because of that. Story 9. I had a few drinks. I saw her dancing her heart out in Spyro the Dragon onesie at a music festival and thought she was super cute and loved her energy. We caught each other's eyes and I said I loved her onesie. She lit up and said, "Thanks, I brought extras. Do you want to borrow one?" I said, "Absolutely." So she brought me back to her friend's little camping area and handed me a Charmander onesie to use. We spent the rest of the weekend together, and we've been basically inseparable ever since. This was 8 years ago. We have a kid and pretty dope life together. She's super outgoing, energetic, a little loud, and chaotic, in an extremely charming way. I'm pretty chill, quiet, introspective, and grounded. We really round each other out in a beautiful way, and we very much appreciate one another for our differences. We're definitely a vibe. I love her dearly. Story 10. By randomly deciding to shoot my shot. She was my coworker, and I had only talked to her one time before. I walked up to her and asked if she had a boyfriend. She said no, and I said nearly verbatim, "I think you're cute, and I was wondering if I could get your number?" She gave it to me and I texted her 30 minutes later, and I only relatively recently found out she thought I was weird that I texted so soon, lol. I'm horribly uninformed when it comes to that kind of social etiquette. I won her over later in our talking phase when I understood a Shrek reference. She said she had a lot of layers to her personality like an onion, and I said like ogres. She was really happy I got the reference, and it's been good ever since.